안녕하세요 여러분, 모니카라고 합니다. Hello everybody, my name is Monica and once again welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be a little bit different from the content that I've been posting, but still I think it's going to be a very useful video. As many of you already know, I'm an English teacher here in South Korea, and today I wanted to record a useful video for those people who are going to come here to Korea, or those of you who are looking to come here to Korea to teach. This is only a video coming from my experience and what I've been through, but I hope it can help you. If you're thinking about coming to South Korea to work as a teacher, there are 4 disclaimers you must know. First, you need to have a passport from one of the 7 English-speaking countries. Second, you must have a bachelor degree. It doesn't matter what type of degree it is, as long as a bachelor's degree from one of those 7 English-speaking countries. Most importantly, you must like children. You're gonna spend a lot of time teaching children, a lot of time in the school, and you're not going to want to be in a job that doesn't make you happy. It doesn't matter if teaching is your ultimate goal or if you want to be a teacher for the rest of your life. That is not the case here. But you should like working with children, or you should like children in general. If you absolutely don't like children, working in a school is probably not the best environment and probably not the best option for you. And lastly, you have to be sure about wanting to come to South Korea and experience this culture. Many people come here with the idea that the country has to adapt to them. It has to adapt to their needs, it has to adapt to their lack of language knowledge, it has to adapt to whatever idea they have in their heads. But in reality, it is us, the foreigners who are coming to this country, the ones that have to adapt. You can't expect everybody here to know English. You can't expect everybody to understand you or everybody to know why you're doing certain things, or you can't get offended when people do certain things here. There's going to be a big cultural shock for those of you who haven't done enough research. So I really encourage you to start getting yourself familiarized with the culture before coming here, and instead of reacting to whatever it is that shocks you, embrace it and adapt. If you fit all of the categories from this disclaimer, I think you're ready to start this adventure. I'm gonna start with a little story time about why I decided to come here to Korea. I started studying Korean 2 years ago when I was living in London, which is a little bit embarrassing given the level that I actually have. I like to say that I have survival skills, because my Korean level isn't that good. And I started meeting a lot of Korean people and study groups, and I enrolled in a school to learn the language a little bit better. I made a lot of Korean friends that slowly started introducing me to this really unknown culture for me. Being raised in Spain, all of the Asian influence, shall I call it like that we got was from Japan or China, but we rarely got anything that came like from Korea. So learning from this culture was actually something that was really, really interesting for me and really appealing. So I was living a great life in London. I was working as a teacher and I was also working as a full-time singer. But right after COVID hit, because I was self-employed for both of my jobs, I had this existential crisis being stuck at home without a job, without anything to do other than study Korean and go to my online lessons. I decided that I was a little bit bored, that I was a little bit stuck in my life, and even though it was a great life that I was living and I had an amazing group of friends and I absolutely love London. It's one of my favorite cities, and honestly I do see myself living back again there in the future, who knows. But I had been living there for 6 years and I knew that I wanted to change. And I didn't want to go back to Spain, I didn't want to go to the States, and it just kind of made sense in that moment in my life to move to Korea. I had been saying for a while that I wanted to come and visit my friends here, that I just wanted to do like an Asian trip and visit all of these countries, and it just clicked for me that I was already a teacher. I was already learning the language. I already had friends here. Why not just try? What's the worst that could happen? I mean, if I wasn't happy or if I didn't really like the experience for whatever reason, I would just pick my stuff and go back. So I decided that it was a good moment in my life where I wasn't really teaching, I wasn't really performing, I wasn't really doing anything of the things that tied me down to London. So I made the crazy choice of moving to Korea, and within 3 months and a half, I was already here. And to be honest, it's been the best decision of my life. So without further ado, let's dive into all of the things that you need to start the adventure, just like I did. There are many perks about teaching here in Korea, but the most noticeable ones are that you will definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, find a job as an English teacher here in Korea. The demand is very, very, very high, and there are many schools that need English teachers. So you will not have any problems when it comes to finding a job. Second, and my favorite perk of all, you don't have to pay rent. Rent is included in your contract. The only thing that you will have to pay is utilities, which is like maybe $100 a month, $100 a month. It is definitely a big perk when it comes to saving money. Another perk is that the school pays for your flight in advance, or as they did for me, I paid for my flight and then they reimbursed me. And the most important one of all, the school will sponsor your visa. As you know, currently, because of COVID, getting visas is actually a little bit complicated. I remember that when I moved here, they weren't giving any holiday visas or working holiday visas, and you could only come to the country with an actual work visa. Coming here as an English teacher, it's a very easy way to find a sponsored visa that will last for a year or longer. One of the recommendations that I can give you when interviewing for jobs here is to be picky. Be picky. Be picky and do not settle for less. When I decided that I wanted to come here and work, I made a list of all of the things that I wanted in a job. I wanted to get this amount of pay. I wanted to live in this area. I wanted to work with this age group. I wanted to work in this type of school, etc. If the school is a good school, they should be very transparent. So one of the things that I highly recommend you do is to ask for the contact information of current foreign teachers working at the school. I would also recommend for you to ask for current photos of the accommodation where you're going to be staying. It doesn't have to be the exact house where you're going to be living, because when I applied for my job and they sent me photos of the place where one of the teachers was living, but not necessarily where I was going to be living, because the building where I currently am is a newer building, so they still couldn't show me pictures or anything. But the facilities of the place were going to be similar. Everything was going to be walking distance from the school, which is also something that I recommend you ask, because you don't want to be living somewhere that's going to be an hour away from where you're going to be working. The commute, the money that you're going to waste, especially when it comes to the winter months, it's just something that you're not going to want to do. So I highly recommend that you try to live near the school. And last but not least, agree on the work date that you want to start in. Korea has different starting dates than we do in the States or in Europe. For example, here the school year actually starts in February, March, and then the second term starts in August. So most of the time they want teachers to start at the beginning of the year in February so they can be in a full school year with the children. But for me personally, that just did not work. I wanted to start working on the second half of the term, and I was really set on my ground that I did not want to move before a certain time because I had a lot of things to do. We ended up coming to an agreement, deciding on a date together. So just be really picky when choosing a school, looking if it checks all or most of the boxes that you want in a job, because at the end of the day, this is going to be your livelihood for whatever amount of time you're going to be here, and it's something that you're going to want to enjoy and you're not going to want to be miserable about. One thing that you're going to want to know is that there are 3 main types of schools here in Korea that you can apply for. There is public school, private school, also called hagwon, and international schools. I'm going to take international schools out of the equation because in order to apply for international schools, which is a pretty sweet deal, I have a friend who's actually working in an international school and it's amazing. But to work in an international school, you have to be an actual teacher and have a teaching license. So because that is not my case, we're going to be talking about public school and private school. There aren't many differences when it comes to teaching public schools and teaching private schools. The only problem, in my opinion, when teaching in a public school is that you cannot choose your location. You're going to be placed randomly anywhere around the country, which it's not a really big deal, but if you are set on living in a city such as Seoul or Busan or even, Sejong, Daejeon, wherever it is that you want to live in, you take the risk to actually be placed in the middle of nowhere because they do send a lot of teachers to rural areas. Other than that, there aren't many differences. There might be some when it comes to vacation days, public schools having a little bit more days than private school, or the amount of working hours, but this last one, at the end of the day, it pretty much just comes to the school you're working in. I know a lot of people that work in hagwons and are exhausted and have a lot of work and are just teaching back-to-back classes, but I've been pretty lucky with the school where I am teaching, and I actually have a lot of downtime during my day where you do have to be there from 9:30 to 5:30, but you're not teaching all of the time. All of the downtime that I have, I actually use for prepping, or I'm just there chatting with my colleagues, or we're having lunch, or you just have free time to do whatever you want to do. So with all of this being said, you can start to see what the differences are between working at a public school and a private school such as a hagwon. When I first applied to be a teacher here in Korea, I decided to go through EPIK, which is English program in Korea. This is basically a program run by the government, I believe, that will place foreign teachers in public schools. I don't have much experience with the EPIK program. When I first started looking into the idea of coming here to Korea, I decided that I wanted to go with the EPIK program, but ultimately I was not selected because they do an extensive background check on you and ask where you've spent most of your life, including all of the names of the different schools that you've been to. And because I've spent most of my childhood in a non-English speaking country, I was not selected to be part of the program. For granted, I was a little bit bummed, but on the same day, I decided that, there were many other ways to come here to Korea, so I started applying to private schools. Now, how do you apply to private schools, you might ask? There are several ways where you can actually find schools and apply for schools here in Korea. One of the most famous ways is the website Dave's ESL Cafe. Dave's ESL Cafe is a forum where recruiters and private schools, or even individuals who are leaving and are looking for a substitution or a replacement or whatever, post job opportunities. This website is updated daily. It's updated constantly, and I 100% assure you that you are going to find a job there. After I got rejected from EPIK, I immediately went into Dave's ESL Cafe And on the same day that I emailed recruiters, schools, and individuals that had posted all of these listings, I had interviews lined for days. And I actually had offers, like job offers, coming in the same day, which is insane. This is when you actually realize how high the demand is for English teachers here in Korea. Like, it's incredible. Another way to find a job, and the way that I ultimately find a job here in Korea, was through recruiters. I initially didn't want to go through a recruiting agency because I thought that recruiters were actually going to ask for money. For those of you who don't know, my father has a study abroad company, and study abroad companies obviously work with you paying a fee and them organizing everything for you, paperwork, internships, housing, whatever it is that your study abroad experience offers or has included or whatever in the package. So for some reason, when I thought about recruiting agencies, that's what came to mind, like study abroad companies where you have to pay like a lot of money for everything to be organized for you. Well, I was wrong. Recruiting agencies here in Asia in general, apparently, are free of charge for the people who are applying. So let me explain this. When I applied through many recruiting agencies, you give them your details, you give them your preferences when it comes to dates, age group, everything that we talked about before, and they are in charge of lining up all of these interviews and all of these like offers from schools, and they will just start bombarding you with either emails, phone calls, video calls, whatever, and you get to decide among all of those what it is that you actually want. So like, oh, I want to interview with this school. Oh, I like what this other school is offering. I like this, but I'm not really sure about the pay. Can we talk about that? Can we negotiate? They will help you throughout the entire process without asking for a single penny. Now, how do these companies stay afloat? Once you actually sign a contract with one of the schools, they get a commission from the school. So it doesn't come from your paycheck. It doesn't come from your pocket. Nothing at all comes from you. It all comes from the school once they actually sign a contract with you. There are like a couple more ways of getting jobs, but I don't really recommend them, at least for first-timers coming here to Korea. One of them is Craigslist. I know it sounds crazy, but Craigslist here is actually a little bit different. I mean, the page still looks really dodgy, but a lot of people have gotten jobs through there because they do list a lot of job opportunities in Craigslist. And Facebook groups. Facebook groups are actually a really good way to find jobs here in Korea within the teaching community and outside of the teaching community. But for first-timers, since many of the jobs offered in Facebook are looking for people with F visas or D visas or people already living in the country, I don't think it's the best way for you to start. But once you're here in Korea, definitely check out different Facebook groups to find different job opportunities, because it is actually a really legit way to find a job here in Korea. Now, if you've decided that you actually really want to come here to Korea, you're gonna need time, and you're gonna need a lot of documents, and you're probably gonna need a little bit of money to get you started, because some of these documents that you're going to need are a little bit expensive, or just the whole process. It's not that there's one thing that it's expensive in itself, it's just that you need a lot of different documents and a lot of like different little things that add up when it comes to money. But without further ado, these are the documents that I needed when I came here. Number one, you're gonna need a passport from one of the 7 English-speaking countries like we mentioned before. Professional passport photo in the Korean size, obviously, not the American size, European size, or whatever. Your Apostille criminal background check, or also known as CRC. And this document, you're going to need to have it apostilled by the FBI. Now, this document is the one that took the longest for me, and the reason why I couldn't come to Korea earlier. because of COVID, most of these documents are going to be delayed. And the whole process of getting all of these documents is going to be really slow. So you can actually get your criminal background check on the same day that you apply for it, but getting it apostilled by the FBI is going to take a while. For me, it took actually 3 months, which was nerve-wracking because I think that it is after 4 months or something like that. Don't quote me on this, but it's like after a certain amount of time it expires because you could have committed new crimes or whatever. So it was really stressful having to wait all this time to get it and then having to send it, you know, to Korea in the school immediately so it didn't expire. You're gonna need proof of English education, which is your bachelor's degree in an English-speaking country. And you're gonna have to have this notarized. In the US, it's on state level. I'm not really sure how it works in the other countries, but because my bachelor's degree was from a different country where my passport is, I had to have it apostille. You're gonna need your sealed transcripts. You're gonna need to complete the TEFL course if you don't have a major in education or English, you know, literature or an English major or something like that. You're gonna need a TEFL course. And I'm not sure if a private school would ask for these things. I know that they didn't ask me, but when I applied for the EPIK program, I was asked to hand 2 letters of recommendation, tattoos, photos, because apparently like there's a stigma here with certain tattoo placements. And I had to create a lesson plan. But as I mentioned before, when I applied to private schools, they didn't ask for any of these things. Now, once you get all of these documents, you're going to have to send them fast. Send everything as fast as you can with a tracking number, because that way, trust me, everything is going to be easier and it's going to sail smoothly. Once all of your documents arrive to Korea and the school has them, the school will take everything to the embassy, and once they process everything, they're gonna give you a number, and that number is the one that you're gonna have to put on your visa application that you will send to your nearest Korean consulate. As I mentioned before, bear in mind, this process is very long. I can't stress this enough. It's very long, so you have to be patient. For me, the whole process took at least like 3 months, like getting everything from everywhere. It was really stressful, but at the end of the day, it was really, really rewarding once I had everything put together and I saw that there was being progress made. There isn't much else that I can say about all of the documents and the process that you need. If you have any questions, you can ask below in the comment section. But in conclusion, I just wanted to say that living in Korea is and has been one of the most incredible experiences of my life. And I highly, highly, highly recommend it. I can't stress enough how much I recommend this experience. Yeah, it's true. You're gonna have a 9-to-5 type of job, but the pay is incredible. You don't have to pay rent. You get to travel. You get to meet incredible people. You are submerged in a new culture, new amazing food, traveling, you know, around the country. I am genuinely so happy right now in my life. And obviously, yeah, like not everything is perfect. Not everything is gonna be perfect ever, anywhere where you are, but I know that this was the right choice for me. It doesn't matter if I stay, it doesn't matter if I leave. In this moment in my life, this was the right choice. But yeah, overall, this experience has made me grow so much as a person that I just want everybody to experience what I'm experiencing. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but if you're watching this video, it's because you probably have the same eagerness as I did when I decided to move here to Korea. I really hope that you can get everything sorted and come here soon, because trust me, this is an experience that you will not want to miss. If you like this video and would like to see more content like this in the future, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. I will be seeing you on my next video. Bye!